Everyone is asking the same question right now. Did AI kill SEO? And the honest answer, the one that many in this space won't give you, is yes. The version of SEO, that is, which most agencies are still selling, is dead. But organic search certainly isn't dead. However, it is fractured, and the companies that now understand what actually killed the old model are pulling away from the companies that still haven't figured it out. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what died, exactly what replaced it, and exactly how you can tell which side of the line your company is currently on. The old model was simple: publish more content, target the right keywords, build any link that comes from an authoritative website. You do all this, watch traffic grow, happy days. And it's not because Google stopped working, it's because the way people search has fundamentally changed, and it's fractured into three distinct layers. Most SEO strategies right now are still only optimizing for one of them. But the companies that are winning in organic search right now are trying to get a blend of all three. I'm going to show you in this video what these three layers are and exactly why they are impossible to ignore and the underlying data that supports this. The most important data point I'm going to show you in this video is a comparison between two companies that are very much in the same category, in the same topical space. One has more than 3 times the amount of ranked keywords on Google as the other, and about 7 times more #1 positions. But it is the other company that is winning in virtually every AI search ranking. I'll show you exactly why and what this means for your business. So let me be specific about exactly what died, because it's not SEO as the concept. It's a specific playbook that most agencies are still running, and a lot of in-house teams too. And if you recognize what I'm going to talk about in this video, it's time to have a word with your team about changing the approach you're taking to search. Let me tell you about a quick call I was on a few weeks ago. Founder of a SaaS company, they were doing pretty well, 2-3 million ARR, annual recurring revenue. He was a smart guy and sharp on his numbers too. And then during the call, he pulled up the agency report and he looked almost embarrassed to show me it, which originally surprised me a little bit, but then I got into deeper questions and I started to understand why. On the surface, it looked pretty good. Traffic was up 40%, their DR score was up about 9 points. And then he goes quiet and says, but we only got 3 demos from organic in the whole of the last quarter. Oh, I thought. Looking more at the report, I realized pretty quickly there was nothing in that report that was actually going to produce demos. It wasn't that he was being cheated. The agency was doing pretty good work, pretty good content, but the strategy was fundamentally misaligned with what they needed. They were measuring results on a game that's kind of ceased to stop mattering, the dead approach to SEO, if you will. So I'm going to explain what the dead playbook is. So there's a few things I'm going to go into, but firstly, high DR websites for links. So people for a long time have believed that the more authoritative a website, the better the link is. This isn't strictly true. Of course, there is some correlation between an authoritative site and one you want to have a link from. But the problem is people are chasing after links that are in irrelevant niches, on pages where the content's irrelevant, and on sites where the DR is the only good thing about the site. Remember, DR from Ahrefs is a third-party metric. By itself, it does mean nothing for the ranking. Also, DR can be easily manipulated with services that you can buy on platforms like Fiverr for as little as $5. And this is a manipulative strategy that's used exactly for this case of selling backlinks to people who might be vulnerable. And that brings me on to guest post farms. So people for a long time have known guest posting is a pretty common strategy for link building, probably the most famous link building strategy. But the thing with guest posting is there's very different types of websites, and most website editors, especially in SaaS right now, they don't allow much guest posting. And the reason for that is they want to keep control of their content strategy in-house. They want it to be pretty product-led. Maybe they do outsource to an agency, but that agency is very dialed in on their processes. They don't want loads of contributors to the website. In the past, companies needed content, and they were much happier to outsource this, and therefore guest posting was a lot easier. But now the majority of guest posting opportunities that you're going to come across really are guest post farms or link farms. These are sites that exist for the pure purpose of selling backlinks. These are not the sites that help you build authority. So buying links right now from high authority guest posts is dead. It's a dead strategy, and it's not something we recommend. But SEO isn't just off-page and link building. It's very much on-page efforts too. So content, where does content fit into this? So now I'm going to talk about a concept called the content trap. Here there is 2 distinct errors that people are making. Firstly, very generic content that exists purely to capture traffic. Think of how-to guides. You find the keyword in Ahrefs or in SEMrush and you think, wow, this is a great opportunity. 10,000 visitors a month, 10,000 search volume a month. This is going to be the way we get loads of traffic to the site. And yes, you may be able to rank this blog, but ultimately someone looking for information information about what is a CRM or how to use one. They're not necessarily your buyers. In fact, most of the time these are going to be students just looking for some information for their research report. The problem with this first type of content is it's exactly that. Content that is written for a keyword tool. It's SEO content. And even though we shouldn't believe everything Google says, Google have explicitly said multiple times now, do not create content for the pure purpose of getting traffic. So here is not what you should be doing. This is something that I definitely think you should be leaving in the past. This type of content is very much dead. The second type of content is a bit more interesting because, I'm going to say this carefully, what I'm going to say is a bad type of content is bad product-led content. A company produces good product-led content. This is a completely different thing. This is the exact kind of content marketing that's ultimately going to build trust, nurture potential customers, and convert them into buyers. But bad product-led content is something else. So what's a couple of examples of this? For example, say you have a SaaS tool and you publish how to use our CSV export feature or where to access the settings page. Okay, this information might potentially be useful in a rare case, but this should really exist in user documentation for customers of the product. This isn't content that you should be adding to your blog. You think, yes, this is product-led content, but it's not. This content isn't interesting to anyone except for the very, very occasional user who's going to need help solving this issue. And that's why it should exist in the product documentation rather than on the blog. Feature documentation dressed as marketing would be a lovely way to summarize it. So what is content actually for? And this is where we need to think about the marketing funnel. The top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. The concept here is you write top of the funnel content to drive awareness for your brand, middle of the funnel content for people who are in this sort of consideration stage, and bottom of the funnel content is the content that's going to drive the conversion. Think about case studies and things like this. So I said what bad product-led content is, but what is good product-led content? Because this is something you can certainly do and something you should be doing. Good product-led content starts from the buyer's problems, what the buyer's job role is. This is the sort of content that they need to fundamentally do something better, or they need to get a better outcome for their business, whether that be more sales, more meetings booked. But ultimately this product-led content has to solve a problem that someone's having, and that someone should be your ideal customer, your potential customers. So think of an example like this. This could be a great example for a SaaS tool that works building an invoicing software. The article could be something like how a 10-person agency cut their weekly invoicing times down from 4 hours to just 20 minutes. Do you see why this is so much better than writing content that lets someone find how to send an invoice on your invoicing software? It's the same product and the same feature, but it's a completely different type of buyer, and it's so much more interesting to read. And of course, this is a great example of a piece of content where you can make the whole purpose of your content to promote your product, but you're ultimately still targeting searches that are educational and going to be useful. So what else is dead in SEO? Well, here I think there's two extremes. The camp of people who are only optimizing for AI, and the camp of people who are completely ignoring it and saying SEO is the same as GEO, AEO, however you want to call it. Everything in moderation, people, and you don't want to be in either extreme. Think about the first camp. This is pure overcorrecting. The kind of people who read an article on LinkedIn a year ago saying SEO is dead, AI search is the future, and they've completely ignored their SEO content strategy they were working on for 6 months, a year, 2 years. This fails mechanically because AI visibility downstream from already pre-existing Google authority and Google rankings. The models overwhelmingly cite the brands that trusted sources are already talking about. And the retrieval layer, RAG, that retrieves the pages that are already ranking. If you have no editorial presence and good content on your website and no authority to amplify that, then what is AI actually going to be able to find about you? Very little is the answer to that. We've run a few of our own data studies about this. You can check this out on the Emgi Group website. If you go to emgigroup.com and then look on the menu bar, you'll see our original research. I highly recommend checking it out. It's very interesting and it helps to explain things probably better than I can in just one video. But what I'm trying to get down to is you can't skip the foundations of the house and just expect to live in the penthouse. Of course, you can't ignore AI search either. The future of search very much is going to be agentic. We're moving much more to a zero-click world, and a lot of searches start and finish in platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and Gemini. The thing is, right now, there isn't a hard and fast, this works for GEO and this doesn't work for SEO. Instead, GEO is about your brand amplification education across multiple surfaces. That's why the approach of searching everywhere and showing up in all the places that your buyers search is so important. Whether that be forum and discussion sites, being on YouTube, writing LinkedIn thought leadership articles, being in partnerships with companies in your space, integration partners, podcasts, all of this is going to help amplify. And of course, backlinks, brand mentions, this is all still important, but it's about doing a bit more of everything and not spreading your eggs too thin. So that's what the big takeaway would be from this section and the new approach to the modern SEO, if you will. And on paper, Clockify are clearly winning. They have 7 times more #1 ranked keywords than Toggl and 3 times more overall ranked keywords. A big difference, right? Well, not exactly. Toggl overwhelmingly are cited more often and in a higher position than Clockify for the exact sort of phrases that buyers are actually searching on platforms like ChatGPT and in Google's AI search. A large part of this is due to the editorial authority work that Toggl have done. They appear in articles from Forbes Advisor, they're listed as editor's choice in PC Mag. There's many different Reddit threads organically talking about them. There's a ton of signals, essentially, is what I'm wanting to say, and these signals are saying that Toggl is a good option. ChatGPT, Google, they're aware of that, and while Clockify might have more overall traffic, and traffic in good places in many cases, Toggl are actually winning in these fundamentally most important searches. And what I think that comes down to is Toggl have more of the right kind of authority. They have more backlinks and more authority signals from places that are very semantically related to what they actually care about and what they want to rank for. A new concept that I haven't talked about a lot on this channel yet is query fan out. And this is very important because this is fundamentally changing the way in which searches actually work and the technical layer behind how a search is completed. This mesh of hidden subqueries all receive some sort of outputs, and then the answer is meshed together to give the most credible answer to the user based on how the AI model has dictated that. So for example, we were talking about time tracking. If someone searches into Google AI, what is the best time tracking software for my agency, the query fan out takes place. Behind the scenes, that query is broken down into tons of different subqueries. Queries like time tracking for agencies, time tracking with invoicing, pricing comparisons, alternatives to the market leaders, reviews, what do people on Reddit recommend? The answer that you see is the retrieval result of a combination of all of these. If you are still running the 2022 playbook, chasing meaningless traffic and ignoring AI citations, well, your traffic report may look fine, but things aren't so dandy underneath the surface. Pipeline from organic is not growing, you're putting money into the channel and not seeing the ROI to the extent you would like, and the gap between you and the competitors who have already figured it out is going to only get bigger. The scoreboard changed, but most people haven't realized it yet. So if this is new to you, subscribe. Even if it's not new to you, subscribe anyway. This is what we cover at weekly releases on this channel. And if you want to know which layer you're currently missing, the link's in the description to book the call with us, the diagnostic call for the growth plan that I've mentioned. 15 minutes, you'll have a clear picture where all the gaps are. But anyway, appreciate you taking the time, appreciate you watching it, and see you in the next one.